The lights of the NBC studio shimmered like diamonds across the polished stage floor. The air buzzed with anticipation, the audience whispering in excitement. This wasn't just another talk show. This was the return of Meghan Markle, the Duchess who had shaken the foundations of royalty itself. And sitting across from her was Ellen DeGeneres, America's queen of charm and comedy, ready to deliver what was expected to be a light-hearted conversation. But behind the polished smiles and studio laughter, something heavier lingered. A tension no one could quite name yet. As the opening music faded, Ellen's voice filled the studio. "Please welcome the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle." The applause thundered as Meghan stepped onto the stage, glowing in a cream-colored suit, her posture elegant, her confidence deliberate. She smiled, waved, and took her seat beside Ellen. For the first few moments, it felt ordinary. Laughter, compliments, the usual warmth. But even through the applause, sharp-eyed viewers could sense it. Meghan's smile was there, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Ellen leaned forward, crossing her legs casually. "Meghan, it's so good to have you back. You've been off the radar for a while. How's life treating you in sunny California?" Meghan gave a polite smile. "It's peaceful. Very different from the world I left behind." Ellen laughed, teasing lightly. "Oh, I bet. Less crown, more coffee runs, huh?" The crowd chuckled, but Meghan's smile tightened. "Something like that," she replied, her tone even, almost distant. Ellen continued, the energy still playful. "You know, I was just telling the crew earlier, I can't believe it's been years since the royal wedding. Does it feel like forever ago?" Meghan's eyes flickered for just a second. "Sometimes," she said softly, "and sometimes it feels like yesterday. Moments like that never really leave you." Her tone was calm, but beneath the surface, there was weight, a hint of something unresolved. Ellen sensed it, but didn't stop. "You've been through so much, Meghan. But tell me, do you ever miss it? The palace, the attention, the title?" The audience leaned forward slightly. Meghan gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Miss it, maybe certain moments, but not the cost that came with it." Ellen raised an eyebrow. "The cost?" Meghan met her gaze. "Peace of mind," she said simply. "It's expensive when you're living under constant judgment." The crowd fell quiet for a beat. Even Ellen hesitated, unsure whether to move forward or retreat. Trying to ease the tension, Ellen laughed softly. "Oh, come on. It can't have been that bad." Meghan's voice stayed calm. "You'd be surprised." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was electric. The cameras captured the faintest shift in Meghan's expression. Calm on the surface, but her eyes held something fierce, a quiet storm waiting to rise. Ellen tried to change the subject quickly. All right. Let's talk about something happier. Your kids. How's Archie doing?" Meghan's expression softened. "He's wonderful, so full of light. He reminds me that kindness doesn't have to be rare." The audience clapped, sensing a brief return to warmth. Ellen smiled, relieved. "That's sweet. You know, you've always talked about kindness, Meghan. Even when people haven't been kind to you." Meghan smiled faintly. "Yes, and that's the irony, isn't it? The louder you speak about kindness, the more some people try to test it." Ellen chuckled, trying to keep the tone friendly. "Well, that's Hollywood, or maybe life in general." Meghan tilted her head. "Or maybe it's just people showing you who they really are." The words hung heavy in the air. Ellen blinked, her smile faltering just slightly. Behind the cameras, producers exchanged uneasy glances. The energy in the studio had shifted. The once light conversation was now balanced on a knife's edge. Ellen, ever the professional, tried to bring it back to laughter. "You know, Meghan, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells here," she joked. Meghan's reply was soft but piercing. "That's how I felt for years." The room froze. The audience didn't know whether to laugh or stay silent. Ellen's face stiffened. The moment had turned. The calm was breaking. Ellen cleared her throat, her tone changing. "Okay, let's talk about your documentary then. You and Harry really opened up in that. Some people loved it, others said it was revealing." Meghan's jaw tightened. Truth always is. The crowd went silent again. The words were simple, but her delivery made them sound final. Ellen's trademark smile flickered for the first time that day. "Well," she said awkwardly, "you've never been afraid to speak your mind." Meghan nodded slowly. That's what they fear the most. The air in the studio had changed completely. What started as laughter and charm now felt like a storm about to break. Meghan's tone was still calm, her expression composed, but something powerful radiated from her, a sense of quiet defiance. Ellen tried one last time to regain control. "You know, Meghan, I think people just want to understand you." Meghan's eyes locked onto hers. "Understanding isn't the same as approval," she said quietly, "and I've stopped needing both." The final applause signaled the segment's end, but the audience wasn't clapping with the same cheer as before. Ellen forced a smile, thanking Meghan for joining her, but her posture was tense. Meghan's exit was graceful, yet every step carried weight. The calm before the inevitable storm that would come hours later, when clips of this interview spread online and headlines began to spin. Within hours, social media was ablaze. People debated what had happened. Was Meghan provoked, or had she come ready to make a statement? Commentators called it the most uncomfortable Ellen interview ever. And though nothing explosive had yet happened, everyone could feel it. The storm was coming. Because sometimes, silence says more than a shout. And in that studio, Meghan Markle didn't raise her voice. She simply let the calm break. The audience at NBC's studio was in high spirits, clapping and laughing as Ellen DeGeneres exchanged jokes with Meghan Markle. The lights gleamed softly against the backdrop, the air alive with energy. At first glance, it seemed like just another interview, warm, witty, perfectly rehearsed. Meghan sat composed, her posture elegant, her smile precise. Ellen had always been good at making her guests comfortable, but today, something about Meghan felt different. She was present, but guarded, as if every word she spoke was being carefully measured. Ellen leaned back with her signature ease. "So, Meghan," she began with a grin, "we've talked about your new projects, your kids, life in California. But there's one thing everyone still talks about, your royal days." The crowd chuckled lightly, waiting for Meghan's reaction. She smiled politely, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Ah, yes," she said softly. "Those days never seem to leave me, do they?" Ellen continued, her tone still playful. "You know, it's funny. Every time your name comes up, there's some new headline. People have called you everything under the sun. How do you deal with that?" Meghan gave a small laugh, but her eyes didn't match it. "You stop reading," she said simply, "and you start listening to yourself instead." The audience clapped gently, but Ellen wasn't done. "Still," she pressed, "it must be tough, especially after all the, royal drama." She said it with a grin, but the word drama lingered like smoke. Meghan's expression changed. Her smile froze, subtle, but unmistakable. The laughter in the room faded. Ellen didn't notice, or maybe she did. "I mean, come on," she continued. "People still talk about the interviews, the accusations, the family fallout. Some say it was brave, others say it was a bit much." The audience gasped softly, sensing danger. The tension in the studio thickened. Cameras zoomed closer, catching the shift in Meghan's face, the warmth gone, replaced with a look that could cut glass. Meghan leaned forward slightly, her voice steady but firm. "Ellen," she said, "when people live your life for you, they forget you're human. They forget there's pain behind every headline." Ellen blinked, taken aback, but trying to stay composed. "Oh, I get that," she said quickly. "But you have to admit, Meghan, those stories—" Meghan interrupted, gently but decisively. "Those stories were written by people who never met me." Her tone was calm, but the room could feel the power behind it. And yet, they were believed more than my own truth. The crowd was silent now, hanging on every word. Ellen forced a small laugh. "Well, we all know the media can twist things. I mean, that's part of fame, right?" Meghan's expression didn't soften. "No," she said slowly. "That's part of cruelty disguised as curiosity." For the first time, Ellen lost her rhythm. Cruelty? She asked. Meghan nodded. Yes. When you're mocked for your kindness, doubted for your honesty, and punished for your silence, that's cruelty. The audience shifted uneasily. Ellen tried to smile, but it didn't quite land. You know, Meghan, she said, people might say you're being too sensitive. Meghan turned toward her, eyes sharp. Then maybe the world has forgotten how to be sensitive at all. A stunned hush filled the studio. Ellen swallowed, trying to move on. All right, let's talk about your new show. Meghan's calm voice interrupted again. Ellen, this is my show now. The audience gasped audibly. Ellen blinked, half smiling, as if she hadn't heard right. What do you mean? Meghan leaned back, finally smiling, but it wasn't one of warmth. I mean, this moment, the honesty, the truth, the discomfort, this is what I stand for now, not rehearsed kindness, not silence. Ellen's voice faltered. Meghan, wait, we're live! But before she could finish, Meghan had already unhooked her mic and placed it on the couch. She stood up gracefully, looked toward the stunned audience and said, The truth doesn't need permission to be heard. And with that, she walked off the stage. The studio erupted into chaos, audience members whispering, Ellen frozen in disbelief, and producers shouting to cut the feed. But it was too late. The cameras had captured it all. Within minutes, social media exploded, clips spreading like wildfire, headlines flashing across the internet. Meghan vs. Ellen began trending globally. Some called it a meltdown, others called it a masterpiece. But one thing was certain, what began as laughter had ended as a storm. And for Meghan Markle, it wasn't just a walk-off, it was a statement. The studio lights blazed hot under the tension that now filled the air. Ellen DeGeneres, known for her humor and effortless charm, leaned forward in her chair, the usual smile on her face replaced by something sharper. Meghan Markle sat across from her, posture straight, eyes fixed, every bit the Duchess she once was, but with a flicker of fire in her expression. The laughter from earlier segments had long died. The atmosphere was thick, charged with something that couldn't be undone. Ellen adjusted her cue cards. You know, Meghan, she began, her tone deceptively casual. A lot of people still wonder if you regret leaving the royal family, or if maybe, just maybe, you miss the fame that came with it. The words sliced through the air. A murmur rippled across the audience. Meghan's lips parted slightly, but for a moment no sound came out. Her gaze sharpened, a flash of disbelief crossing her face before she composed herself. I didn't leave for fame, Ellen, she said slowly, each word deliberate. I left for freedom. Ellen nodded, but her next question came fast. Too fast. Freedom or control? She pressed, her voice soft but pointed. Some would say you traded one palace for another kind of spotlight. The crowd went still. Even the hum of the cameras seemed quieter now. Meghan's jaw tightened. You're crossing a line, she said calmly, though her tone carried a warning edge. You invited me here for a conversation, not an interrogation. But Ellen didn't back down. Come on, Meghan, she laughed lightly. You've lived a life the world can't stop talking about. Surely you expected a few tough questions. Meghan's patience cracked, but not loudly. It was in the silence that followed, in the way her shoulders squared and her eyes no longer wavered. Tough questions are fine, she said, but twisting my life for entertainment? That's not conversation, Ellen. That's exploitation. Gasps rippled through the audience. Ellen's smile faltered. For a moment, the host who had always been in control looked caught off guard. She tried to steer it back. I think our viewers just want honesty. But Meghan leaned forward. Honesty? She interrupted, her voice low and steady. Honesty is what I've been fighting for since the day I walked away from that palace. Honesty is why I'm sitting here right now being cornered on national television. The crowd held its breath. Ellen shifted uncomfortably in her seat, trying to recover her composure. The producers behind the camera exchanged frantic looks. The segment was spiraling, and then it happened. Meghan slowly reached up, unclipping her microphone. The metallic click of it echoed louder than anyone expected. If honesty is what you want, she said, standing up, then here it is. I don't need this show to prove who I am. A collective gasp spread through the room. Ellen's mouth opened to respond, but no words came out. Meghan placed the mic on the armrest and took one last look at the stunned audience. Her expression was unreadable, calm, proud, yet undeniably wounded. As she turned to leave, her heels clicked sharply against the floor, the sound almost rhythmic, like punctuation to her final statement. The cameras caught every second. Ellen remained seated, frozen, as the studio erupted into whispers and confusion. When Meghan reached the exit, she glanced back once more, her voice firm yet calm. "You wanted a moment, Ellen? You've got one." And with that, she was gone. The door closed behind her, leaving only the echo of silence and the knowledge that television history had just been made. Within minutes, clips began circulating online. The hashtags "You're Meghan's Ellen" and "Walk Off Live" trended worldwide. For millions watching, it wasn't just an interview gone wrong. It was a reckoning. And as the dust settled, one question lingered across every screen, every headline, every debate. Did Ellen push too far? Or did Meghan finally draw the line she'd been holding back for years? The world had witnessed the breaking point, and nothing would ever be the same again. The studio was in shock. For a few seconds after Meghan walked off, no one moved. The silence was heavy, almost unreal, as if the room itself was trying to understand what had just happened. Ellen sat frozen in her chair, still staring at the empty spot where Meghan had been sitting only moments ago. The cheerful energy that usually filled her set had evaporated. All that remained was the echo of tension and disbelief. Then chaos began. Stage managers rushed in, earpieces crackling with panicked voices. "Cut to break! Cut to break!" one of them yelled. The live audience looked around in confusion, some whispering, others pulling out their phones, already typing, already recording. The flashing red on-air light dimmed, and the studio fell into organized disorder. Ellen stood up slowly, adjusting her jacket as she tried to regain her composure. Her smile, the one she'd perfected over decades of television, trembled at the edges. "We're going to take a quick commercial break," she said weakly into the camera. But the feed was already gone. The broadcast had cut. Behind the scenes, the NBC control room was a storm. Producers were shouting, trying to figure out if they could salvage the segment or if it was already too late. One of them, pale and sweating, turned to the executive producer. "Do you realize what just happened? This is going to blow up online." And it did, faster than anyone imagined. Within an hour, someone from the audience had uploaded a shaky phone recording to social media. The video showed Meghan ripping off her mic, standing tall and saying, "You wanted a moment, Ellen? You've got one." The clip spread like wildfire. Millions watched, commented, argued. By evening, it wasn't just trending. It was everywhere. News outlets across the world picked it up. Meghan Markle walks off live interview. Ellen stunned. Talk shows replayed the footage in slow motion, analyzing every gesture, every glance, every word. Some called Meghan brave for standing her ground. Others accused her of walking out when the questions got tough. But no one could look away. Back at NBC headquarters, a crisis meeting was underway. Ellen's team argued over what to release publicly. Should they apologize? Should they stay silent? One executive slammed his palm on the table. "No matter what we do now," he said, "the story's out of our hands." Ellen herself sat in her dressing room, the door locked. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirror, the same reflection that had smiled through 1,000 interviews. But tonight she didn't recognize it. She replayed the moment in her head, trying to pinpoint where it went wrong. Was it the question, the tone, or had Meghan simply come ready for a fight? Meanwhile, Meghan had already left the building. Cameras caught her getting into a black SUV, her expression unreadable. She didn't speak to reporters. Her security team cleared a path as flashes from paparazzi cameras lit up the night. But one thing was clear. She wasn't shaken. If anything, she looked free. By midnight, the internet was split in two. Hashtags like Team Meghan and Team Ellen trended side by side. Influencers, journalists, and even celebrities joined the debate. Some said Ellen had pushed too far, turning what should have been a conversation into an ambush. Others said Meghan had overreacted, proving she couldn't handle tough questions. But beneath all the noise, one truth lingered. Everyone was talking about it. NBC's phones rang nonstop. Advertisers demanded answers. And yet, behind all the outrage and speculation, one thought haunted the network. They had just witnessed television history, and there was no going back. The next morning, the clip had surpassed 50 million views. Memes, edits, and breakdown videos flooded every platform. Late-night hosts opened their shows with jokes about the royal walk-off, and tabloids splashed headlines like Meghan's mic drop heard around the world. Ellen finally addressed the incident days later, her tone measured but cold. "Sometimes," she said on air, "interviews don't go as planned." It was all she said. But everyone knew there was more. More behind her eyes. More behind the silence that followed, and as the world moved on to the next trending scandal, that one moment, the mic drop, the walk-off, the stunned host became legend. A reminder that even live television has limits, and that sometimes, when a storm brews long enough, walking away isn't weakness, it's power.